Hello students, welcome back to the class. So the last class we have discussed about the directive principle of state policy. In this directive principle of state policy, we have discussed about liberal principle, socialist principle and Gandhian principle. Now we will go forward. We are going for a very new topic. Okay, so this is quite new topic and this is what is the difference between the fundamental rights and directive principles. So anyhow, first topic we have discussed about fundamental rights. Second classes we have discussed about directive principles in many classes. Now we will make differences between what is fundamental rights and directive principles. There are many differences. Okay, so we will study about what are the differences between the fundamental rights as well as directive principles. I will go forward here, children. First one is fundamental rights are nothing but these are the basic rights. If you are take introduction already we have discussed, but I am reminding you once again. So this is nothing but a basic rights which are given by constitution. So this right was provided by constitution to the citizen of the country. Okay, this right, these fundamental rights, who is providing? Constitution is giving these fundamental rights to the citizen of the country. So these are the basic rights. Every citizen should have these rights. So next, when we are discussing about directive principle, so directive principles are nothing but the guidelines which are given by central government to the state government. So that is directive principles. Next we will discuss about it. So fundamental rights, we have discussed that this was included in the part 3rd of the Indian Constitution. Directive principles are included in the part 4th of the Indian Constitution. So we will discuss about both the rights. Now fundamental rights are given to the citizen of the country, children. I already said you constitution has given these rights to the citizen of the country. We have discussed about various fundamental rights. 7 fundamental rights we have. 2007 recently one more fundamental rights, right to information. Okay, right to equality, right to freedom, right to religious freedom, right against exploitation, cultural and education right to constitution remedies. So overall if you see we have nearly 6 to 7 fundamental rights, right to information. Now these rights were given to the citizen. Okay, citizen should enjoy and citizen should uplift himself. So whenever the citizens are getting freedom, then only they will develop in the society. What is the main aim of providing the fundamental rights to the citizen? So when you are providing fundamental rights and freedom to the citizens, citizens can live happily. Okay, next come to the point. Directive principles are what? Directive principles are nothing but this was taken by the government. So government is taking some steps to provide the welfare of the people. Development of roads, sanitation, constructing the bus stops, bus stands, facilities like railways. So all these are nothing but the steps which are taken by government to provide welfare of the people. Okay, welfare act like development, to provide development to the people, welfare activities for the people. Government have taken a steps and government is following the steps. So that is called as directive principle of state policy. Now we will go forward. Fundamental rights are negative in nature. Okay, fundamental rights are quite negative in nature and directive principles are positive in nature. Okay, why? Because sometimes the fundamental rights will discuss about discrimination. Sometimes fundamental rights have different type of policies which are but directive principles mainly discuss about developments. Okay, sometimes the fundamental rights discussed about punishments. Okay, sometimes the fundamental rights discuss about some type of punishments like untouchability and all. But whenever the directive, that's why this is a negative in nature. But when we are talking about directive principles, every time it will talk about development. For example, progress, development, maintaining international relationship, etc. So that's why directive principles are positive in nature. Okay, next we will go forward. Now when we are talking about aims, what are the aim of fundamental rights? The aim of fundamental rights is to protect the life and also liberty. Okay, according to Article 21, which includes right to life. This includes in fundamental rights Article 21. So first important right of the fundamental rights aim is to protect the life of the citizens and also to provide liberty, freedom. Right, liberty and freedom are one of the two important part that every citizen should require. If the citizens will have life, then only the citizens can enjoy the fundamental rights. So first and the main step, the state government, the fundamental rights which are given to the citizen, right to life. Okay, according to the life, state government should protect the life of the citizen. It's a responsibility that A fundamental rights aim is to protect the life and to develop the liberty among themselves, freedom. Now, when we are talking about directive principle, what is the aim of directive principle? Is to provide economic life, to develop the economic life of the people. Economic life in the sense what, have and have not. Okay, to uplift the weaker section of the people. So whenever the government will provide different type of jobs facilities, employment facilities, so what will happen? Economic life of the citizens automatically will improve. Economy is nothing but which are quietly related to monetary. So whenever the government wanted to improve the economic life of the people, how the government can improve the economic life of the people? By directive principle. Industries, we have discussed that cottage industry. For example, if you develop the industries, cottage industries, if you improve the sanitation, public health, then what will happen? Economic life of the people automatically will develop. If government will develop industries, people will get job. If people will get job, they can able to survive, they can able to earn more income. If they will get more income, the economic life automatically will improve. The aim of directive principle is to provide political life. Political life should be very good. Okay. So political life regarding politics, their life also should improve. The aim of directive principle is to provide many social welfare facilities, such as we can find government have provided many facilities like pension facility. This is also one welfare facility. Health facility government have started. Okay, Ayushman Bharat. This is one health facility the central government have started. Okay, state government have started Arogyashri. So like that different type of facilities were started in society. So whenever the society some welfare facilities were provided, that is social welfare facilities. Okay, to provide facilities in the societies which people are living in the society. So state when they are providing any facility, that is social welfare. For example, free education, free textbooks, pension facilities, okay, free funds, distribution of funds, loan given to the farmers, free loans given to the farmers, okay, or we can find different type of facilities which are related to the health facility, etc. So all these things comes under social welfare, and the main aim of directive principle is what? Development of the state. Directive principles mainly the aim is to develop the state. Normally when you develop the states, automatically the people also will develop, but the aim of fundamental rights is to develop the citizen. Aim of fundamental right is what? They wanted to develop the citizen. Aim of directive principle is to develop the state. This is one point. Fundamental rights are justiciable. Justiciable in the sense, whenever the people are not following the fundamental rights, they will get punishment according to the Article 32. According to Article 32, whenever the people are not following or obeying the fundamental rights, they will get punishment. But when the directive principles, when the people are not following directive principles, the state government, when they are not implementing properly, they will not get punishment. What is the reason? See, fundamental rights are enforceable by the court of law. So fundamental rights are enforceable by the court of law, in the sense whenever the people, fundamental rights should be given to all the people. Okay, fundamental rights are given to all the people which are enforceable by the court of law. If any people are not able to get the fundamental rights, they can approach court. So directive principle means, see, state government, like for example the guidelines which are given by central government to state government is to develop industry. So central government has made a guideline to the state government to develop industry. Now it depends upon the state government. They need funds and resources to develop the industry. Suppose if the resources are not available, then they can't develop any industry. This is also one point. Okay. So that is mainly depends upon the resources and collection of tax. Some states will get more tax. For example, Maharashtra will get more tax. Some states are there like Bihar, if you see, they will get very less tax. Due to that low collection of tax, they can't able to develop the industries and other areas. So this is the reason. Okay. So everything developments are mainly depends upon the taxes as well as resources. So that mainly depends upon particular state, and that's why whenever there is no development activities which are done by state, no form of punishments will be given. But fundamental rights are enforceable. Means if you are not getting fundamental rights, or if the government is taking fundamental rights of the citizen, then citizens can directly approach court. But directive principles are not like that. In directive principle of state policy, in the sense, suppose if any person is not getting, if states are not following the guidelines of central government. Central government have explained many guidelines, develop cottage industry, develop industry, developing roads. Now it depends upon state to follow the guidelines. If the state will unable to follow the guidelines due to some monetary point, then the state government will not get any type of punishments. So this is one point, because most of the developments are mainly related to the collection of taxes as well as resources, climate, etc. Different things are related. Okay, see, one state will develop it mainly depends upon different resources. For example, if you take an example, Brunei resources are very good, they have petrol, and that's why it has been able to develop. So similarly, if the state does not have any resources, and even though if the central government have made a guidelines, if the state government unable to follow, then no punishment will be given to the state government for not following the guidelines. So this is a difference between the directive principle and fundamental rights. So fundamental rights compulsorily you have to follow, but directive principle sometimes it will not be followed. In that condition, punishment will not be given in case of directive principle. But in case of fundamental rights, when the citizens are not getting the right, they can approach court and they can justiciable. Fundamental rights are implemented without legislation, children, without passing. Whenever if the bill is passed in Lok Sabha, then it will become legislation. Legislation means without passing the bill in the parliament, fundamental rights can be implemented, and fundamental rights are implemented in the part 3rd of the Indian Constitution. Fundamental rights are implemented. Directive principles cannot be implemented without legislation. Means when you are implementing any law or when you are implementing any scheme, that you have to pass in the parliament. So directive principles compulsorily implementing of directive principles legislation is must. But fundamental rights, without passing that bill in the parliament also we can able to implement fundamental rights. This is one point. Next, whenever the fundamental rights are, whenever the new laws are violating the fundamental rights, it become illegal, void. Okay, whenever the laws are violating the directive principle, that cannot be considered as void. Okay. Next, fundamental rights can be implemented without passing the bill in the legislature or without government also. Without control of government, fundamental rights can be implemented. But directive principles, if you wanted to implement the policy, then the role of government is very, very important. Whenever the fundamental rights implementing, role of government is not compulsory, but in directive principle the role of government is very, very important. So in this lesson we have discussed about what is the difference between the fundamental rights and directive principle. So what we have discussed in this, we have discussed about fundamental rights and directive principle, in which we have discussed that fundamental rights are nothing but this is the basic rights which are given to the citizen of the country, and directive principles are nothing but the guidelines which are given by central government to state government. Fundamental rights are mainly the rights given to the citizen, but directive principles are nothing but the states have to hear what is doing this, which was taken by the state government to provide the welfare activity. So state is taking that principles to develop the welfare activity. Fundamental rights sometimes discuss about negative nature. That's why these are in negative nature, but directive principles most of the time there are positive nature. The main aim of fundamental rights is to develop life and liberty, but the main aim of directive principle is to improve the social, economic, political, social welfare, development, etc. Fundamental rights are justiciable according to the code of law. Directive principles are not justiciable according to the code of law. To implement fundamental rights, no need of legislations are required, no government is required. And fundamental rights are included in part 3rd. Directive principles are included in part 4, and for implementing directive principles, without legislation, directive principles cannot be implemented. Without government, directive principles cannot be implemented. Role of government is very important. Role of government is not important in fundamental rights events, but the role of government is compulsory in directive principle of state policy. So this is the point. So in this lesson and in these classes we have mainly discussed about fundamental rights and directive principle. So the main thing is what? Main point, fundamental rights are enforceable by the court of law. This is compulsorily right, and compulsorily every citizen should get. But directive principle means in every state, some states facilities will be very good, some states facilities are not good. In that condition, punishments cannot be given. Fundamental rights, when the citizens are not getting, we can enforceable and we can give punishment. But in directive principles, suppose if there is no development activity, citizens cannot approach court. In fundamental rights, if you are not getting these rights, you can approach court. But directive principles means when you are not getting these rights properly, when there is no proper development activity, when there is no water, when there is no sanitation, when there is no cottage industry, then citizens cannot approach court. This is the difference between fundamental rights and directive principles. In the next class, we will discuss about the power of president. Thank you very much.